What a joy it was to get to entertain people across the globe. Throughout my career, I'm this bright, colorful character, but oftentimes I would go home still struggling with my mental health. In many ways, wrestling saved me, but it didn't fix me.
You went from being WWE Champion, lost the WWE Championship. 2 months later, you break your neck. That could have broke you.
It was disheartening to be thrust back into a tag team. It wasn't long after that, I get dumped on my head and my career is over.
That moment changed your career. It also changed Ridge Holland's career.
He got a lot of hate, he got threats, but I know what I signed up for. And I really hate that his tenure in WWE, it's going to be defined by the injury and his role in it.
Look at previous neck injuries. Edge came back. Paige came back. Bryan Danielson came back. Why can't Big E come back?
All neck injuries are different.
What do you think your career looks like without the New Day?
Not great. If it wasn't for the New Day run, things probably would have been done for me around 2014.
When you guys debuted, people hated you.
No, it sucked.
What was the original pitch?
So the original pitch was,
it is so good to see you.
It's good to be here, man. I appreciate you.
We've been talking about doing this for a long time, and you kept saying, we'll do it at some point, man. We'll do it when I have something to talk about. Well, you definitely have something to talk about now.
Yeah. I was kicking the can on this for a while, so I appreciate your patience. But yeah, man, I wanted to hop on. I knew I had a book in the works that I'm never one to like to talk about, I got this thing coming. When the time's right, I'll let you know. And the time is now. So I'm very excited to talk about it. It's interesting. I was talking to my partner about, it's interesting naming something because you have this loose idea, but once you put a name on it, and now like your publisher is putting it out. But anyways, the book is How I Got Over, and it's pre-sales are now live. So I'm excited to sit down and talk about it. And for me, man, the idea of sitting down to write a memoir about my life and my career, for me, was not something that really excited me. But really, a lot of this was, I had my creative partner, Johnny Davenport, who I think the world of, who's designed our gear with the New Day. He designs gear for a ton of talent and has for a long time. He first kind of put that spark in me for writing a book several years ago. But at the time, I was like, I don't want to sit down and write about my life. That felt too self-aggrandizing. But then I had that Players Tribune article, Sour. And man, the reception for that, seeing how many people were talking about it or texting me about it. Even the people at Players Tribune told me that internally, they hadn't had an article that was kind of this buzzy. And there's so many big names that write on that platform. And actually, my article was included in a book on the best sports writing pieces of 2025, and the only Players Tribune article ever to be placed in that like prestigious book series.
Wow.
So I think all of that feedback and seeing how people connected, not with, hey, here's a guy who got to play football and wrestled, like that wasn't what I was getting the feedback on. It was about my mental health journey. And for me, man, How I Got Over is just so important because I think there's so many people who are quietly struggling with their mental health. You look at me, and I'm this, for throughout my career as a wrestler, especially in the New Day, I'm this bright, colorful, obnoxious, goofy character. But oftentimes I would go home and I was still struggling with my mental health and if I even wanted to be here. And the worst of my mental illness, which I really dive into, was in college, ages 19 to 23. Were the worst years of my life, and I'm so thankful because I never could have envisioned all the things that I got to do when I was 22 years old and didn't want to be alive. I could never fathom getting to be with WWE and travel the world, eventually finding love, being in TV shows and commercials and movies, but it's not even really about all the trappings or about the money or the accolades. It really, like for me, I never fathomed getting to a place where I was truly at peace, where I was content with myself. So I just really wanted to write a story of hope for other people who are struggling. So yeah, man, I'm really excited to sit down and talk to you because I think it's just mental health is so vitally important, especially now.
Man, you are so open with your experiences in this book. It's raw what you speak about. Were there certain topics that were difficult for you to write about?
I think they would have been difficult if I started writing the book a few years ago, but not really. I've really been excited about this idea of Sterling K. Brown talks about being naked with your clothes on. Mm-hmm. That idea of being so transparent and open and honest and honest with yourself as well. So for me, the last few years, that has been the thing that's excited me is how I want to make I want to make art or shows or books or series, whatever it is. I want to make things that are raw, that are honest, that are open. Because I think a lot of times when you see someone who has attained something in life, when you see someone who's on TV or doing certain things, you think, oh, they are free of problems or free of cares. But I tell you, like, I shared a locker room with so many people. I think there's so many people who gravitate to pro wrestling because there's this hole inside of them that they're trying to fill. And I talk a lot in the book about that hole I was trying to fill. And I think a lot of us deal with imposter syndrome. A lot of us quietly fight our own mind. So I wanted to just kind of shine more light on this myth that so many people have about people who are public figures and thinking that life is easy or smooth. And that's not to say that I want you to feel, to say, oh, woe is the guy who's making millions of dollars, who's on. That's not the point. But I think when we can understand that the human experience is so universal, and that whatever walk of life you come from, that so many of us experience so many of the same struggles. Maybe some of us on TV are better at masking them, but that doesn't mean that we don't have the same fights or similar fights. So I just thought the more I could be open and honest, the more I would be able to connect with people who are struggling right now.
The great thing about wrestling, aside from just being a pro wrestler, I feel like wrestling is just, it accepts everybody. It's like, it's the island of misfits. Like, just welcome, join us.
Right.
That's a cool thing.
No, it is. And when I got to FCW, there was so much of that. I looked around and, so in FCW, there are guys like in the same building. We're in this warehouse in Tampa, and right next to me is Roman Reigns, who's going to go on to become a big movie star. He's Leaki at the time. I shared a ring with Seth Rollins. Woods and I spent a lot of time in FCW together. But there's also guys who wrestled on the indies for a decade plus who are never going to end up on the main roster. There are guys who there's people from all walks of life, varying forms of success in their career and whatnot. But you have a real hodgepodge of characters of some guys who come from this wrestling lineage and other guys who don't. So it really is a great mix of personalities. And I've shared locker rooms with so many vibrant, audacious characters, so many interesting folks. So it's the circus. I always tell people wrestling is the circus.
I love the double meaning of your book title. How I Got Over, you immediately think about the wrestling terminology of like how you get over in the ring.
Yep.
But it's also for you, how you got over depression, how you got over abuse growing up, how you got over a career-ending injury. How do you dive into all of that in the book? Like, you got over a lot of things that some people may never get over.
Yeah, and a lot of that, it's a journey. I think being able to better understand myself and my own mind was certainly a journey. And I'm so grateful for therapy in college. And it was one of those things where, I didn't grow up in a household where that was something that was pushed, where therapy, it was a man doesn't show his feelings. He keeps everything bottled inside. He doesn't cry about what he's going through. So I had to unlearn a lot of that. And I was forced to go to therapy at the age of 19. And I was so fortunate to have an incredible man in Marvin Sims, who unfortunately is no longer with us. But he was someone who just took his time with me. And I don't think I'm alive if it wasn't for him. So, man, it was therapy. I needed medication at the time. I talk about being on a serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor, an antidepressant, and an antipsychotic in college. It was that. But for me, man, I really beat the drum so much. If you follow me on Instagram at all, for the most part, you probably see a lot of stuff from Headspace, but I'm a big believer in meditation. That was the app that I use. And it just helped me.
Yeah, I use it too.
Yeah, I think meditation really can help anyone. One, it allowed me to be so much more present, and instead of me worrying about the future or just I had so many injuries in college. I tore both my ACLs. I broke my right patella, tore my left pec, all in 2.5 years. And every time I had an injury, it just really, I got back on the treadmill of overthinking, and my depression got worse and worse and worse. But meditation really just allowed me to deal with a lot of the ups and downs of life and know, like, okay, I felt before like my depression controlled me. Like I would have to deal with its ups and downs and its ebbs and flows. But meditation just really got allowed me to be at a point where I was able to kind of withstand anything that came my way. It really just gave me a really, such a strong foundation for my mental health where, okay, bad things are going to happen. That's life. So I'm so grateful because I don't think if it wasn't for finding meditation during the pandemic, I don't think I would have handled the injury well. I think I would have spiraled because I had so many, I had so many things being thrown at me. One doctor was talking about putting me in a halo where they drill into your skull. And that was a possibility at one point. They drill the screws into your skull to attach this halo that I would be in for 3 months. Another option that was discussed was fusing my C1 and C2. And one doctor told me effectively I would be disabled because I would not have the ability to rotate my neck enough to be able to drive. So there was that. And I get to the hospital as well. And they told me like, you were this close to stroke or paralysis or even death. So I think years before, if I didn't have the mental tools, I think, man, I would have plummeted. My mental health I would have been in a very, very bad place. But I'm so grateful to have had the tools now to be able to deal with all those ups and downs.
Every time we'd see you in WWE, you'd be so upbeat, a beaming smile coming out of your face. There's this quote in the early part of your book. I want to read this to you because I feel like it really depicts where you were at. As a professional wrestler, I was colorful and comical. I took great pride in being the escape for others that I had so desperately needed throughout my own life. But I still so often felt hollow. I still constantly thought about what it would be like if I never had to wake up another morning.
Yeah, I think people are very used to seeing a certain side of me, and I think when you see, it's something I talk about in the book as well. But I think of the comedians that I loved that ended up struggling with their mental health. I think of like Robin Williams. Yeah. I could never understand how can someone who brings people so much joy struggle? How can he
be in so much pain?
Yeah, that was hard for me to understand until I went through it myself. And don't get me wrong, man, I am so grateful. And I think in many ways wrestling saved me. It gave me purpose. I love being that escape for people. I love when people said like, I came to a show and you and the boys were the best part of the show. And I brought my kid or even, we have people who come up to us and say like, I just had a loss or my grandmother passed, but we watched you guys together and it helped us during a difficult time. And that means the world. But for me, as fulfilling as that was, it didn't fix me. It doesn't erase the self-loathing. It doesn't erase the issues you have with your self-esteem, with the way you look. And it's just when you're on this hamster wheel, just like my struggle started since childhood, it's like single digits. I have this vivid memory of being 9 years old and looking in the mirror and despising myself. So when you're doing this, it's just so exhausting to be fighting this battle from a kid. And I'm a teenager, and everything that I wanted that I thought could fix me, like I was a state champion wrestler, a powerlifting national champion. I got to play football at Iowa. I got to all these dreams I had, I got to live out. And still, this isn't enough to still fix me or to feel like I have value or to feel worthy of love. So I think just that constant toll of being worn down by my depression. I talk to a lot of other people too who have that same feeling. Like depression can just be so exhausting. And when you're fighting for that long, it's just I just don't want to be doing this for any longer. I just like the idea of, let's say my natural lifespan is 70, 80 years. You mean to tell me like I gotta keep doing this? I gotta wake up and struggle with oftentimes I would have nightmares, these really vivid nightmares, these disturbing nightmares. And then you're starting your day and then you have headaches and I don't want to be fighting anymore. I'm tired of this. It is wearing me down. I think I just got to a point where I was ready to be done. I didn't know. It's like, okay, you got to the height of your career. You got to experience all these incredible things, but you still feel this way. So yeah, man, it was something where even in 2019, man, I didn't have a plan to act on it, but I wrote a suicide note just because I just couldn't get these feelings out of my head.
What an interesting dichotomy to go from being beloved. You go out in front of the WWE universe Everybody's chanting your name, chanting for the New Day. When you leave, fans are asking for your autograph or asking for a photo. And then you go back to the hotel and it's the complete opposite.
You still have to be you. It's like as much as I loved being able to entertain people, and especially when we were really taking off, that time together was so fun. I like Kofi and Woods, we talk about all the time about the bond that we built, our brotherhood. It was so beautiful and it just moved me so much and it's so meaningful. But ultimately, like, you still have to put that aside and you go home you go to your hotel, you go home. It's like, it's something I talk about in the book, but that idea of wherever you go, there you are.
I love that quote.
Like, I can't run from me. That's the thing too I think about in my career is I've traveled around the world. I've wrestled RVD and Randy Orton in South Africa. I've been to Japan at least a half dozen times, wrestled in Europe more times than I can count. I've been all over the world. It's like wherever I go, but I'm still in this vessel. I'm still trapped in my mind. This is still who it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money I make. It doesn't matter how many things I do in my career, how much I travel, all these things that are additive and bring my life more purpose. But I'm still, until I fix me, until I address the things that I've been running from for so long, until I stop trying to shove those childhood wounds inside some closet and forget them, like, until I empty that out, until I actually face it head on, I'm still going to have to be me. I'm still going to have to fight my mind. So yeah, man, it took me a very long time to understand that is those trappings and all the other things you can do in life that are worth celebrating and I'm proud of. They don't erase who you are and how you feel about yourself, ultimately.
What do you think it is about meditation and getting still that helps so much?
For me, it's about being present. In meditation, whether it's counting the breath, oftentimes you're encouraged when you're sitting in your chair, and I might only, for the most part, I typically meditate just 10 minutes a day, but you take your practice with you as well. You learn to count your steps. So it is just the practice of it's as much as, a lot of the damage done during childhood programs you, it takes programming to unlearn that. It takes a while. And I think a lot of people who meditate for a day or two and they don't notice anything, it's like, there's a lot to deprogram. There's a lot. It takes a while. And it is that daily practice of kind of unlearning a lot of the things that, like, I learned to isolate and to put my walls up to protect myself. And that's something that serves you for a while. But you get to a certain point where putting walls up keeps people out, bad people out, but it also keeps good people
Keeps everybody out.
It keeps everyone out.
Yeah.
So for me, like, meditation it's just that practice of, like, I for so long, I just would replay these things from childhood and would tell myself these things over and over and over. But meditation was just allowing me to get out of those flashbacks and replays of things in the past, and it was just learning to reprogram myself to be here, to be present, because I always feel like in the present moment, things aren't that bad.
Yeah.
It's when you let your mind start wandering and worrying about what's around the corner or the things that are coming, or that's when you build up these paper tigers and these things that become a lot darker and a lot scarier than they actually are. So I've just learned there's a lot of power in being present. And man, there are just so many beautiful byproducts from meditation as well. Just gratitude. I think that's been one of the biggest things for me, is learning to be grateful for the small things. Like, I have so much gratitude for little things. Like, man, when I broke my neck, my first thought wasn't, woe is me, it's all over, what am I gonna do now? It's, I'm alive. I'm not in a wheelchair. I'm not in constant pain. I have taken gamble after gamble, wrestling, football. I put my body through it, but I'm here and I'm alive. And the amount of people who texted me, who called me, fans who DM me, like, I'm getting chills now thinking about it, because I had so much love and support, and it's like, I couldn't get down. I didn't know how to get down or to be sad about it. Because look at all these people who care. Look at all the people who will take the time out of their day, even if it was just 10 seconds, to type a message and say, man, I'm thinking about you. I hope you're getting better. I have a whole community of people who cared. And for so long, I thought there was no one who cared if I lived or died. And now it took me 3 days to get back to all these people. I have so many people in my life who cared, who check in on me. Man, I got to thank Mustafa Ali he sent me a Seinfeld Lego set. And I'm not a big Lego guy, but he knows I love Seinfeld. I talk about it's my favorite show.
Yeah.
I made Seinfeld gear, which somehow I got away with as well.
Art Vandelay, right?
Yeah.
Vandelay Industries.
So just being able to sit down during that time when I'm in a neck brace and put this thing together and be excited to construct something every day. But I never felt alone during that process. And I'm thankful for, the company made sure I had no medical bills whatsoever. I didn't have to doctor shop. That was all taken care of. Man, I think the world of Tavia Hartley, who used to work for WWE, but the way she went above and beyond to come to my house, I was living alone at the time, to take one of the guest rooms and just make sure I was able to get around. Because even, it's like little things, when you have you have to be in this neck brace at all times.
Like sleeping too.
Yeah, I have to sleep in the neck brace. Even when I shower, I had to change immediately into a soft collar. So to have someone to make sure that I could get around, that I had everything I needed just for a few days, to make sure I was ready on my feet. And then from there, Dr. Dugas at WWE, of all places, I tell people, of all places you want to break your neck as a WWE superstar, do it in Birmingham. Because, that's Dr. Dugas a few years prior. He repaired my meniscus. He's someone I've known for a while. And he allowed me to hop on his private plane. He's a big wig, just doing big things. Hopped on his plane, so I didn't have to worry about going through TSA or just trying to get out of, because the trauma right after breaking my neck was so sore and stiff, and just being able to move out and about, but having his plane to make sure I got home safely. I was just so grateful for everyone, man. There was so much love, so many people who were there for me. So yeah, man, I had a community and continue to have a community of people who have my back, who support me, who look out for me, and it was impossible to get down on myself or to worry about what's next, because I just felt so loved.
And it would have been easy for you to do that, because if you think about it, you went from the highest of highs, being WWE Champion. You lost the WWE Championship in January of 2022. 2 months later, March 11th on 2022 is when you break your neck. So to go from that high to that low so quickly, yeah, that could have broke you.
Yeah, man. And I had a friend of mine who I'm now super proud of. He's in LA. He used to work in social media for WWE, Anthony Notarelli, but he's doing his acting thing right now and doing well. But we used to have this, because we were both kind of quietly struggling with our mental health at the time. And he used to refer to me as the sad clown, because he was one of the few people who knew what I was going through and experiencing. And we would also have this joke, and it was a dark joke. But his little thing was, as soon as I retire, but within 48 hours, put me on suicide watch. Because for me, the thought was, I always have the constant distraction of travel, of doing shows. You don't really have time to sit with your mind. But I had that. But when all that stopped, my fear, and I had a real fear of, when all that's over and you're home alone, there's no running from yourself anymore. There's no, now you have to really confront your mind and what you're going through. So for the longest time, I had a real fear that if this came to an end, I don't know. I don't know how I would be. I don't know what would be next for me. I don't know if I would immediately plummet back to everything I'd struggled with. But going from having the title, dropping it on we had that day one PLE in Atlanta, losing to Brock, which initially that was supposed to be me and Seth. It's supposed to be a singles match. That then Kevin Owens got added to it to become a triple threat. Then Vince at the time loved Bobby, so Bobby gets added to it, becomes a four-way. And then at the time, I don't know if you remember, Roman gets COVID, allegedly. Who knows? But that was the rumor. He got COVID, so he couldn't be there. So Brock needed a match, so he gets added to our match. And what was supposed to be a singles between me and Seth becomes a five-way where Brock beats me for the title. But that's the business. And honestly, the fact alone that I got to be world champion, a guy like me, is pretty incredible. It wasn't the run that I wanted by any means, but I'm grateful that I got it. But to go from that to having, there's certain Raws where I felt like I was probably in 5-6 segments, and then I would have to do the dark match, and I'm doing pre-tapes, and there's a lot on your back, to going from that to immediately being thrust back into, and look, I love the boys, I love the New Day, but to go from, hey, you're on the show alone. I think they were on SmackDown at the time. I was on Raw. To immediately be like, oh, okay, the idea of you even trying to fight back or get another opportunity, nah, we're not doing that. Get back to the tag team. Man, it was demoralizing, but the wrestling business is filled with ups and downs and ebbs and flows, and I think a lot of talent get too caught up in kind of the ebbs and flows. And you have to be able to ride that wave. So for me, the idea was always to fight back, but it was disheartening to be thrust back into a tag team, and then it wasn't long after that where I get dumped on my head and my career is over. So a lot of life change in a couple months, but more than anything, man, I'm just so grateful that I had the tools with meditation to be able to deal with it all.
Has this ever happened to you, where there's a show or an event that you want to watch, but it's only available on a certain streaming service, and you can't believe how much a subscription to that streaming service costs? NordVPN has you covered. With NordVPN, you just log in and change your virtual location to somewhere where it costs less to sign up, and boom, there you go. You can do it from any device, your laptop, phone, or tablet. And the great thing about NordVPN is it's more than just a VPN now. With their next-gen antivirus, NordVPN warns you about potential scams and protects you against fake online stores. Next-gen antivirus scans your files for malware and deletes the dangerous ones. It also blocks phishing sites, trackers, and even scam phone calls. It's like having your own personal bodyguard. NordVPN is now your all-in-one app for digital security. Not bad for the price of a cup of coffee every month. This is an exclusive deal that you can only get by going to nordvpn.com/CVV. So head there now to take advantage of it before it's gone. Plus, there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/CVV. Do you remember everything from the night you got injured?
Yeah. So I remember we had the tag team match. Thankfully, I didn't have a concussion at all. I didn't end up going out. None of those things. So I was with it the whole time. So we had this tag team match, and it was me and Kofi Woods at the time. I think was out. Can't remember what he was, a nagging injury he was out with, but he was close to coming back, but he wasn't quite ready. So it was me and Kofi against the Brawling Brutes, and I think Sheamus was on the floor at the time. I think it was Butch or Pete Dunne and Ridge at the time. So we had the tag team match, and at the end, I knew it was Kofi and Pete were in at the end. So I think me and Ridge needed to figure out some way for us to be low at the end. And I know kind of a lot of the feedback I was getting oftentimes was, okay, you're not only are you a former world champion, but you're a bigger dude as well. So they wanted me to have something where I was put down for a while. So instead of, hey, take a super kick and you're down for the finish, sometimes I'd need to take a bigger bump to justify being down at the end. So I thought, okay, I'll miss the suicide spear. I was going to take off to hit Ridge. He was going to move. And I actually ended up missing the apron because oftentimes, when I miss the suicide spear, I like to post on the apron as I spill out. So the tumble isn't quite as nasty. But I ended up not having enough room to do that. But I ended up taking the spill to the floor. But the plan was for Ridge. I asked Ridge to, what do you want to hit me with? Because we'd worked for a little bit. And I actually really liked Ridge. We worked a couple times. We worked a singles on a house show around that time. And, I think the three of us did a pretty good job for us, the idea of let me just go in, hit all my moves, and make myself look good is not something we were ever invested in. We always wanted the teams we worked with, we always wanted them to come out, whether they ended up, winning at the PLE, if that was the culmination of the program or not. We wanted to make sure that every team we worked with, our hope was they came out looking better than they came in. So I was like, yeah, Ridge, he said he could do an overhead suplex. And I thought, I do overheads all the time. Ryback used to give me overheads. I don't take a ton of overheads, but Ryback used to give me overhead suplexes. Never had an issue with it. And so I thought, yeah, let's do it. So, I take he moves on the spear. I end up spilling to the floor, announce table side. And I remember just feeding up. And there he hooks me. Things feel okay. I end up going up in the air. But I could tell I don't have enough clearance. But when you're launched, there's not a whole lot you can do. I could attempt to put a hand down, but at the time, I couldn't really. It happened so quickly. There was no time to really post or try to bail. So, yeah, man, I immediately feel myself get dumped on the top of my head and spill to the floor. But honestly, at the time, I didn't really think much of it.
Were
Uh,
you in pain?
no, not really. I was able to move my fingers and toes right away. So just to make sure, I was like, that's fine. I didn't go out at all. I didn't have a headache, didn't have a concussion. I thought, again, I'm not by no means a medical expert. I thought maybe I got a contusion, some kind of neck contusion or something. Let me just stay down for a little bit. But I was like, this isn't great. But I'm not in pain. Maybe I'll be out for a month or so. Just let this thing heal up and I'll be fine. Not a big deal. Thankfully, Dr. Piscasio, who always sits ringside, the doctor, there's always a doctor sitting ringside, but at the time, she was sitting ringside, also from Tampa, my fellow Tampanian. So she was there. She saw it immediately and rushed over. So before I really even had a chance to kind of get my bearings and start moving, I had to be down anyway. So I figured, like, I'm here selling, so I'm just going to be down. She rushes over, and I felt like it all happened very, very quickly. It's interesting. I said it tongue in cheek, but the very first thing I say as she rushes over is, I need to get a new job. Just because, between all the ACLs and the right patella and the left pec, and I had a herniated disc. I actually missed some time Survivor Series during the pandemic because I herniated a disc. I missed that Survivor Series. I was supposed to be on the Survivor Series team, but I missed some time because I herniated a disc in my neck. And it wasn't that bad, but I had some weakness in one of my arms, and it's just not something that I wanted to mess around with. So I just was thinking about all the injuries and everything I've done to my body, and I told myself for the longest time, see, I'm grateful for the old timers and everything they've contributed, but man, I see so many of the vets who are in their late 40s and their 50s and 60s, and so many of them struggle to get around. I was like, man, I put my body through a lot, but I want to have a life afterwards. I want to be able to move around and to enjoy life and to work out and not be in constant pain. So I just kept thinking, like, man, I put my body through a lot. But anyways, doctor gets there, and it felt like, we get to the finish pretty much right away. I remember I think Kofi circled around to check on me, but it was pretty quick where they were getting the EMTs were there. They put me on a board. They strapped me in. And I just thought, okay, maybe this is a bit much, but with neck stuff, you always want to take precautions. But thankfully, man, the hospital in Birmingham, which is where I went to get my meniscus done, so it was very familiar. It was very, very close to the arena. They ended up putting me in an ambulance. Felt like I was at the hospital, felt like 5 minutes later. And then they ran a battery of tests and took some scans. Wasn't long. I think Woods was in town. I think he was backstage, actually. So the boys, man, they brought all my stuff. They grabbed everything, brought it to the hospital, and just stayed. They had a town to get to the next night, I believe. But, man, they just... those guys are family. So they stayed, made sure I was okay, and we just kind of waited for a while. And the news I got was sobering. I did not expect to hear that I broke my C1 in 2 places. I broke my C6, but the fact that they were so flippant about my C6, the C6 is not a big deal. It's the C1 that's the real concern. So then after that...
It's the one right under your skull.
Yes, it's the very close to your brainstem. That's the, of all the vertebrae, that's the one where, like, everything's on the table as far as stroke, paralysis, death. Yeah. All the things that are life changing or life ending. So yeah, it was getting that news was, okay, life is going to be a little different. But honestly, even after they gave me that diagnosis, there was still some hope that I would be just in a hard collar. I can't remember if it was 6 weeks or 8 weeks, but somewhere in that 4 to 8 weeks. So a month or two of being in a hard collar, and they thought there was a good chance that I could come back. But we took more tests. And honestly, the issue long-term was, so they wanted my C1. So I have what's called a burst fracture or a Jefferson fracture. And that's when the C1, it's like a ring. And on opposite sides of that ring are where the C1 was broken. And it was healing, those spaces were healing with new cartilage instead of forming new bone. So I didn't have the same kind of integrity of the C1. So that's been the issue. For my day-to-day life, very normal. I have no issues. But returning to the ring, if this happened again and I don't have the same neck integrity, like that could be it.
Did they tell you because you had so much muscle in your neck, like that's the reason you're still sitting here?
Legitimately, they told me that because I had such a column of a neck, it saved, there was no displacement. When my neck broke, all it takes is for, if some of that C1, if some of the bone ended up like chipping off and moving towards my spinal cord, that's when you have some very, very real and scary things that can happen. Or if there was any displacement at all of the vertebrae and started, that, even if it's just atrophy or nerve pain or headaches. I talk to certain people who like, hey, I broke my neck 20 years ago and I deal with constant headaches. I don't have any of that. Like I'm very, very fortunate. But a lot of the lack of issues is because there was no displacement. When my neck broke, that muscle and that tissue kept everything in place. So there was no movement.
That moment changed your career. It also changed Ridge Holland's career, like a lot. Like he got death threats from this. When did you connect with him and just chat about it?
It was pretty quickly. I don't remember the exact timeline, but we ended up talking pretty quickly thereafter. And you're right, man. He got a lot of that, a lot of hate. He got threats. And on one end, I can understand that a lot of people, I can appreciate the people who are supportive of me and who wanted to see me continue to wrestle and felt like he was the reason that I couldn't. But I know what I signed up for. I know things go awry. It was never malicious. It was never intentional. I felt for him and continued to feel for him. And he actually sent me a 10-pound box of meat, I feel like, as an apology, which felt like a very manly thing to do. Here's a bunch of meat. At the time, I really wasn't eating much red meat. So I was like, oh, this is great. But I sent that to my creative partner, Johnny. Someone enjoyed it, at least. But no, we talked, and he continued to check in. I actually ran into him briefly at the MGM Grand in Vegas for Mania this year, in 2026. And he was on the move, and I was on the move, and there were fans around too, so it was pretty quick. But it was good to see him. It seemed like he was in a better place. But yeah, I know it really altered his career, and I tried to put out a statement or two to tell people there's no ill will whatsoever. Please leave this man alone. But more than anything, like, he has a family to take care of. He has kids, and to see him, one, he dealt with a devastating injury of his own. He dealt with losing his job. I felt for him, continued to feel for him, because I told people, like, I'm in a great place. I'm very thankful. I still am continuing with the company, doing broadcasting work. I am good. I am truly, truly good. But yeah, man, I think he was just in a very difficult position, and I really hate that his tenure in WWE, for the most part, a lot of it's going to be defined by the injury and his role in it. But I really feel for him and for his family, and I truly hope he's in a better place. I hope that's all come to an end, because a lot of people crossed the line and went too far.
I think a lot of people look at previous neck injuries. Edge came back. Paige came back. Bryan Danielson came back. I think a lot of fans think, well, why can't Big E come back?
All neck injuries are different, and that's what I've found as someone who is going through this. So because my injury, my C6 is broken, but the primary concern, of course, is the C1. Because it is so high up in my neck, and because of the nature of it, is there a doctor out there who could probably clear me? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't really done any doctor shopping. But I'm really grateful to Tyson Kidd, TJ Wilson, reached out to me right away. He and Natty I have so much praise for them, because Natty came by. We lived about, I don't live in Florida anymore, but we lived about half an hour from each other. She would stop by, bring by like calcium supplements. She would come by to just talk about what TJ went through. And he, like, my neck injury, in many ways, I think of his, and I think mine is nothing compared. Like, he is fortunate to be alive, and it's been so beautiful to see how he walks around and how good he is now. But he connected me with Dr. Juan Uribe, who did his neck surgery, I believe, but just a spine expert. And he looked at my scans, and man, it was almost a tone of, please, even if they clear you, even if please consider being done. And I talked to a few other doctors who looked at my scans as well, and they felt the same. So when you hear that you are this close to I don't have a stroke in my mid-30s, or being paralyzed, or dealing with, even if it's just dealing with atrophy or constant headaches, I feel like, and it's something I mentioned in the book as well, I feel like it feels like living in a dangerous neighborhood, and you always hear gunshots going off, but finally there's one that whizzes right by your head, and you're like, okay, it's time to move now. Like, I know I was living in a dangerous neighborhood. I know things were a little perilous, but I'll be okay. It's not gonna happen to me. And then you realize how close the end is for you. I never felt like, when in the actual moment, I did not feel like I was going to die. Do not get me wrong. I didn't feel like I was close to it. I was not worried about. But when you can understand that if things went just a little bit different, if there was a little bit more movement, that could be it. It's like, man, that is very, very sobering. So, is there a possibility that even if my neck did, my C1 ossified and it was forming new bone, I think just knowing that people who do this for a living, some of the best spine specialists in the world, have implored me to hang it up or to consider hanging it up, I think that's enough for me. And look, man, I'm 40 right now. There's so many other things in my life that I'm excited about, that I want to do. And one, I could not fathom. I'm engaged. I'm about to get married in a few months. I can't fathom telling Kristen I'm going to roll the dice with my health in my life again. Like that, for me, I can't do that to her. To finally get to this point where I found my partner who I want to do the rest of my life with, someone I adore. We have so much fun together. The cliche of my best friend can be a cliche for a lot of people. It's real for us. Like the idea of I have so many things in my career I'm excited to do, but if that all goes away, if someone says, nope, we don't want to see your face anymore, we're done with you, I will be so content just to be home with my woman and enjoy life. And I think when you're on,
I love that
WWE hamster wheel, and this is all you know, this is all you are, I am so thankful for it. I am so grateful for it. But I think having a bit of a foot out of the industry as well has allowed me to understand there's so much more life out here. There's so many more, even just having my weekends again, man, to be able to travel, to hang out with friends, to connect, to go on vacations. I'm so grateful for all of that. So maybe one day I could get cleared. It's just not a gamble worth taking. It's when you understand the importance of your C1 and the potential costs, I'm just not willing to take those risks.
I just turned 43 years old. Thank you all for the birthday wishes on May 19th. Don't say that date around Kane. You know what I mean. Skincare has been something that I feel has really changed my life, and I wish I had started sooner with Caldera Lab. This isn't your typical overcomplicated skincare. It's made for men who just want something simple that actually does what it says. Clean ingredients, visible results, no synthetic fragrance, silicones, parabens, or phthalates. The standout for me has been the Hydro Layer. This is the moisturizer. It goes on super light, doesn't feel greasy, and helps my skin feel fresh. I also use this serum. It's called The Great. Perfect name for it too. That's why I really started noticing a real difference in how my skin looks overall. But honestly, the eye serum's been the quickest upgrade for me. Takes just a few seconds to put on and makes a noticeable difference in how refreshed I look. What I like most about Caldera Lab is how effortless it is. No overthinking routines. It takes me less than a minute, morning or night, and that's it. I'm good. A small habit with big results. Go to calderalab.com/Chris. Use the code Chris and you'll get 20% off your first order. That's calderalab.com/Chris. How did your current job with WWE come about? And did that start getting talked about right after your injury?
No, so I was just kind of, the company was really supportive and like I said, took care of all the medical stuff, but for the most part, they just like, hey, here's your rehab clinic. And I was just going to a spot that was in Tampa where I was working on range of motion and strength. So I was just kind of at home, resting, recovering, getting checkups with the doctors and getting scans every, few weeks or few months. They were kind of laissez-faire, just kind of letting me live my life for a bit. And then it was WrestleMania 40. And actually before then, there was maybe I think I did something for like Minute Maid. I do some things for like sponsors from time to time. And I had my own little side things that I would do as well. But for the most part, I was just kind of at home. They'd check in from time to time, and I was good. But before WrestleMania 40, they just reached out to me about it was the Vegas press conference with The Rock, with Cody, and that was such an exciting, fun time in the industry. And I actually remember getting on the plane. I just thought I was doing a meet and greet. No one explained what I was doing either. So I just hop on a plane. I don't think it was until I was on the plane where they sent me an email with what they wanted me to do. With like, hey, we want you on the desk. And
you're like, I didn't pack clothes for this.
I mean, I got in the habit of like bringing a suit for a meet and greet. So I guess, okay, I'm ready, but I guess I'll be on the desk because for me, I always told myself, I've heard the stories about being a writer and the hours. I said, I don't want to write. There are people who have so much more acumen in the ring than I do. I don't think I'd be a great coach. So like, let's check that off the list. I told myself for the most part, I just want to wrestle in the company. That was pretty much it. And when that is over for me, I will say, thank you so much. This has been life-changing, and I will find a new path in life afterwards. But, you know, over the last few years, I think that kind of changed a little bit, and I was a little bit more open to maybe exploring another path. So I go out to Vegas for this thing, and man, the energy was so much fun. I don't know how much you remember about that day.
I remember. That was The Rock, the big slap.
The slap.
Yeah.
The family tree.
And this is what really set the wheels in motion for WrestleMania 40 in Philly. Like up to that point, fans were like, I don't know about this.
Right.
Who knows? And then The Rock slapping Cody. It's like, oh, it's on.
It was fun, man. It was fun. It was a very fun atmosphere. And honestly, and this is not a shot at anyone in particular, but in the past, I can't say I loved the pre-shows and post-shows that we did. To me, it just felt very much like everyone was very in character. It felt very predictable. You know what you're gonna get. But I was like, this feels a little bit more organic, a little more electric. And I love that there was no one in my ear telling me what to say or how to say it. It was just go out there and talk. And you know, I was the smoothest on the desk? By no means. Was I the most prepared? No, I was still like getting my feet wet, and I was still, you know, I didn't even know why I was there in the first place. But that was the first thing I was asked to do, and I thought, you know what? This is fun, and I could be all right at this one day. And then from there, ended up doing. I was still on my talent deal then. I think I did WrestleMania that year in Philly might have been my first thing. I can't remember if I did Chamber or anything else before that. But anyways, I started getting in the rotation with doing stuff on the desk, and I was enjoying it. The product was a lot of fun, and I thought, okay, if this is my role, cool. And then once my talent deal ran up, I ended up signing a new deal for broadcasting and for ambassador work, and I thought, okay, I'm enjoying this. And then it was really great getting feedback from certain people like, hey man, you're getting pretty good at this, and we enjoy hearing you. So yeah, it's been a role that I never really thought I'd get into, but when I'm enjoying so far.
What do you think your career looks like without the New Day?
Not great. It's not great. It's you know what? I have the 5 count, which that was so much fun. And it was Dusty Rhodes, may he rest in peace, the legend, who pulled me aside. And at the time, like, man, we were so fortunate that Dusty ran creative. Every Wednesday in FCW, we would come down, and he was the guy. It was a smaller class. There was probably like 40 of us too in this warehouse, and we're cutting promos to Dusty, and he's giving us feedback. But when NXT started, he was also the creative driver of the show. He was writing the shows, and it was kind of a bummer because I initially was not on the first set of NXT tapings. I talk about me and Woods being the very first match ever. We were on the pilot. So there's a pilot that we shot that didn't air. It was just to kind of see if this thing actually worked when we first started NXT, that incarnation of NXT, because it was the NXT beforehand, we're on the road. But this was the first, PC or Orlando-based NXT version. And I missed the first few months of shows, but after that, I started doing just some random squashes. I think I only did 1 or 2, and then Dusty pulled me aside and said, "We want to give you King Kong Bundy's old 5 count." And man, that thing, I was supposed to be a heel, and people were supposed to boo me, but people just they want to interact, they want to be involved. And that thing really took off. It was a lot of fun. And I remember for the most part, my matches, I'd have 30-second matches, 60-second matches, quick squashes. And then the next 6 minutes would be me just teasing. I'd come out, I'd leave. People would chant for the 5 count. I'd slide back in, hit my finish again, hit the big ending, do the 5 count. I'd interact with people. So that was a lot of fun. And I really wanted to be able to do that on the main roster. But unfortunately, I pitched it and was killed every time. That never gained any traction. But I think without the New Day, I'm the guy who did the 5 count in NXT. I was so fortunate, man. I was so blessed to be able to come up on the main roster. I debuted in Philly at the Slammies, last segment of the show with Dolph, with AJ Lee when they were both red hot, attacking Cena. When this is the Super Cena in his prime, and that's how we closed the show. And I got to run off as their heater for a bit. So I have that run. I have the run where we turn on Dolph. I'm with it's me and AJ for a little bit, and then after that, I have the IC title, and I'm kind of floundering for a little bit. It's floundering for a while, and yeah, man, if it wasn't for the New Day run, probably would have either been sent back down in 2014. I think I would have been sent back down to developmental, because at the time there were a few guys, like I remember Alex Riley was sent back down to NXT. I want to say Justin Gabriel, I think, also was sent back down. There was a few guys who had runs on the main roster, but they didn't really have anything for them. They were sent back down to NXT, and they were gone not too long after. And I think I would have been either fired outright, or I think I would have been sent back down to NXT. And I didn't have another trick up my sleeve. I had the 5 count, and once they told me that was off the table, I was struggling to find something. But that was about it. So I think my career probably would have been done. Maybe TNA might have given me a shot at the time, but I was a decent pro wrestler. I wasn't great in ring. I still hadn't really found my voice as a promo either. So I think things probably would have been done for me around 2014.
I think people forget that New Day was not over.
No.
When you guys debuted, people hated you.
No, it sucks. It sucks, man.
You're saying it, not me.
No, we were motivational preachers.
What was the original pitch?
So the original pitch was for us to be the new nation of domination. So it was me. I don't know if you remember Abraham Washington. So Abraham Washington.
Deep cut. Yeah.
Yes. So Abe Washington he had a talk show on WWE CW, or it was just ECW at the time.
Sure,
it was WWE's version of ECW. And he had a talk show where Tony Atlas was his sidekick.
Yeah.
And Tony Atlas, I think, just laughed. All he would do was the ha, ha, ha. He would just do his laugh from time to time. But I'm telling you, Abe, people didn't get to see the best of Abe. Abe is one of the best talkers I've ever been around. He would come in to FCW and he would cut these promos for Dusty we would usually have these hard outs. You have a minute. Maybe he lets you give a minute and a half. Alex Riley and Abe Washington were the 2 guys who had an exception to just go. Because those guys, and people didn't get to see the best of Alex Riley as a promo either. Dude was just incredible on the mic. But Abe, also just a masterful talker. But so we were in FCW. It was me. Byron Saxton was still an active wrestler at the time. It was me, Saxton, Woods, and Abe. And Abe was kind of we all talked, but Abe was kind of positioned as the leader. And we had this group that we initially called, and Abe was very much someone who, unfortunately, liked to push the envelope a little bit too much. I'm not going to talk about the reason he got fired. It's pretty, you can look that up. But he's someone who always liked to kind of to put his foot over the line and see how far we could push things. We originally called the group the Klan. And it was supposed to be, and it stood for like Citizens Liberation of American Nationalists. It was supposed to be this militant black group, much in the vein of the Nation of Domination. We all, grew up loving the nation, and we wanted to do something in that vein. That group it was initially the Klan, then we became the Plan because the office said we're not doing that. So it was we exchanged citizens for peoples. So that was it, and we came out in white and red. So that very first suit that you see Woods come out in, that was like his old stuff from when we were pitching the Plan in FCW. So we never got to do that on FCW TV. We did a few weeks of that. And then eventually the office in FCW said, it's dead. You guys can't do this anymore. Move on. But Woods at the time, so he talks about having the worst debut of all time because he comes up as R-Truth's friend on the main roster. And, almost right away, he's kind of getting squashed. But he comes up to me. It was Extreme Rules of 2014. And he and Truth had a handicap match with Rusev. They both get killed. Really, Woods gets killed within, I feel like, a few seconds, and he was done for. And then Truth gets squashed right after. That same day, I dropped the IC title to Bad News Barrett, who was red hot at the time. And the death knell, I think, as a babyface, is when you go out there. The worst thing is when they don't care at all. But to have fans, when I'm blowing my comeback and they're booing everything. They don't want to see me. I wouldn't want to see me. I was also very boring. Character was kind of dead in the water. Barrett was a lot of fun. So that same day, Woods is dead in the water. I'm dead in the water. Kofi's a guy who he's already, 5, 6 years into his main roster run, already a guy is going to be good, but kind of just seen as, by the office, as a good hand. And so we kind of get to Kofi later, but Woods goes in and pitches the writers that day, pitches them this idea of doing a new Nation of Domination. They essentially laugh him out of the room. And he comes up to me after my match. I dropped the title, and he said, "Hey, what do you think about starting this group, kind of similar to what we did in FCW?" And I said, I got nothing else, man. And I always respected Woods as someone who was a very, very creative guy, just someone who just always pitching, always thinking outside the box. So I thought, man, you know what? He's someone who I think has a ton of ideas. Let's give it a shot. And honestly, like that same day, I was told by Creative, I was told by Road Dogg, look, we like you, but we got nothing for you. Essentially, we need you to go into pre-tapes and just try stuff. And I went into pre-tapes that same day after, I don't know if it was before or after talking to Woods, and we just tried stuff and just tried a bunch of deliveries. And actually, the last thing I ended up trying was, like, I grew up in the church. I grew up actually doing some preaching as a teenager myself in my dad's church. So that oratory style was always very natural for me. And I never wanted to do anything sacrilegious or blasphemous, so I always kind of avoided that. But I just thought, you know what? I think there could be a way to do this in a way that's not offensive to people who believe or Christians. Like, I'm not trying to do anything that upsets people. So I just I went into pre-tapes and started doing next week, I am about to grab the time, just going in. And for me, I feel like I can just riff and just do it. And the great thing with that delivery is it's always easy if you lose your place. It's always, I said, it's very easy to have a moment to repeat and give yourself a moment to come up with something. So that style of promo and delivery was something very natural for me. And so just knowing that the office really had nothing for me, that Woods was in need of something, I just said, let's do this, man. Let's give it a shot. And Woods first came up with the idea of adding Kofi, and I love Kofi. We interacted a little bit we all trained he and I both trained still at Cena's gym, so I'd see him in Tampa from time to time. But my fear is they would never let him turn heel, and I thought for us to work as a group, we needed to be heels. So from there, we eventually, I don't know if I fought it as much. I was just like, I don't know, but eventually, I get on board and I say, okay, let's talk to Kofi. And interestingly, like Kofi at the time was kind of not really having the best time wrestling. And it was interesting. Like he was thinking, maybe I want to retire early. Maybe I want to be done. I feel like I've kind of hit my glass ceiling. I think I'm good. But eventually we were kind of floored with how excited he was at the idea. And he was in. So we just kind of went from there, and we ended up spending months and months pitching. That militant group, we actually got to be on TV. We were in South Florida when Woods comes out in that white and red suit and tells us we're no longer going to be glad handing and kissing babies and shaking hands, and we're going to take what we want. And we did that for about a week. That idea was shelved, and then we had to go back to repitching. But eventually we got to be the New Day that people knew and loved. But it was months and months and months of pitching of, the three of us were on house shows together. We didn't have a name, but we got to work on a chemistry. But we very quickly realized we have something here. We see the business the same. We want the same for each other. We never wanted one leader. We always liked the idea of all three of us being viewed in the same plane. And we just had so much fun together. So we knew, yeah, like this idea, it's worth dying on this hill for, because we all were we were all searching for something. And we also have to give a ton of credit for Mike Notarelli, who now he writes on Tulsa King. He wrote for The Resident, for Fox. He's just doing a bunch of incredible things out in Hollywood. But he was our writer in WWE at the time. And the way he fought for us in those meetings and really was our voice. He was our ear in those meetings. If it wasn't for him, we never would have gotten off the ground.
How long do you feel like it took you to loosen up and become what the New Day that we know and love now? Like the gyrating with the hips, the bright colors.
Yeah. It took a while, man. When I was a kid, obviously, like my love for Goldberg is well stated, but I loved the big dudes, and I always thought that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be this very serious, hard hitter. That's who I am. But then I realized, like, man, at the time we have Mark Henry, who's much taller, several inches taller than me, but much bigger. He's the world's strongest man. We have Big Show. We had Brock Lesnar. Like, I realized that slot of dominant, angry powerhouse, that's filled by much more established, larger, that's not my lane. So it took me a while to figure out who I wanted to be, what I was comfortable doing. It took me a long time. And even just the idea of being out there half naked in front of people, even just the comfortability of being out there. And it's weird, man. My first year or two in being in FCW, just that comfortability of being a performer in front of fans, it took me a while to get comfortable. But I think being with the boys, I felt like I had a bit of a safety blanket. Those were my guys, and I always felt more comfortable around them. And it was a slow kind of unraveling. And I kind of always viewed it as trying to find where that line was. And that, for me, that became the thrill is, okay, how can I push it a little bit further? Okay, next week, let me see if I can get away with humping the ground. just to pop myself. Oh, no one yelled at me. Okay, that's cool. Let me see next week. And I would just kind of play this game with myself. And then, like, man, it just became addicting to really find ways to pop people. Or, like, I remember I actually just texted Big Show. Big Show is always texting. We have it's a group chat with, we call him White Paul White. Big Paul White, or Tall Paul. That's also our name for him. So it's the three of us, me, Kofi, and Austin, and Show. And we always talk. And on one, we're talking about one of the runs we had. We were in Europe, and it was Show and the Usos against the three of us, just having six-mans. Man, that whole loop, so much fun. But our goal every night was to pop Show, was to break him on the entrance before he got to the ring, because he takes his time. And I would sit on that middle rope and with my legs splayed, and I'd bounce up and down and I got real flexible legs, just giving him as much crotch as possible. But that for me I went from someone who was so focused on being this serious wrestler, and I knew that wasn't working. And I couldn't do the 5 count on the main roster. I was struggling to find myself. And then I just got more comfortable with being a little bit more silly, a little bit more goofy. And it's like, oh, I'm able to carve out a lane that, okay, there are a lot of other talent who might be able to do, okay, they're a better talker, they're a better wrestler, they're a better powerhouse, all these things. But I just felt like no one can do all these things. That was at least what I was striving for, is how can I be the only one who can do exactly this? And I always try to encourage young wrestlers who are getting into the industry, find your niche, find your lane, find ways in which you are different and unique. Find things from your own life or from your own background or your own interests that just make you different from the rest of the locker room. And thankfully, I found like I was able to have this blend of I wanted to still be taken seriously in the ring. We would do silly stuff, but I still wanted people to be invested in our matches. That was still vitally important for us. So yeah, man, it was just, I just really had so much fun and so much fulfillment of let me try to be a little bit more silly, a little bit more different. And even one of my things too is, even if I was in the background of a shot, if we had one of those things, like, I feel like when I was circa that SmackDown split, 2018, 19, 20, around then, we did a lot of things where all talent were on the stage. And I was always trying to find I'm always like, we got to go out in 5 minutes. There's a hard hat. Okay, put it on. Or where's a prop? What's something silly we can do? I refused, especially, before my singles run, and I needed to be a little bit more serious, in 2021. Before then, I was always trying to find, how can I do something in the background? How can I chew the scenery? How can I do something that catches people's eyes for a second? Even, I don't know if you remember, there's a gif of me, people couldn't tell what it was. It was a steak. I found a piece of steak, and I knew we had this thing where we all had to be backstage, and I knew I was gonna be close to Brian. So I knew Brian, Brian's a famed vegan, Daniel Bryan. So I'm just gonna be next to him, eyeing him as I chew on this steak. And that became a thing. So I was always trying to find something. How can I stand out? How can I, if I have 3 seconds of TV time, how can I do something that people will point at and laugh? I don't care whether you like me or you don't, whether it's for you or it's not. I need to do something besides just be a random face in the background. So that became my thing, is always finding a way to be different, to stand out, to do something unique or hooky, or just how can I be a character that's memorable on the show? And that became the thing that really excited me as a performer.
Hey, if you were watching Backlash, you may have seen a face that you recognized. Not only was I sitting behind Michael Cole and Wade Barrett there, but I also got this impromptu interview with The Miz and Kit Wilson. Shout out to SeatGeek for the great tickets, and shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including WWE, concerts, sports, festivals, and more. So here's SmackDown in July here. Tickets start at $69. And the cool thing about SeatGeek is they've got your back. Every ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal or not. Look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad, plus every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, as always, I've got a code for you. Use the code CVV to get 10% off your next set of tickets from SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets when you use the code CVV. Just click the link down below to download the app, and that code will automatically be applied to your account. And a big shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring this episode.
What's the story behind this gif of you excessively putting oil on yourself?
So I think that was Rumble time. And we're always talking around the Rumble. It's very stupid, but I always thought if we're talking about serious strategy, the number of eliminations a certain talent has, ultimately, if the goal is to win, does that really matter? Not really. To me, your best case scenario is getting so greased up, instead of, we're always talking about cutting to Mania, everyone's trying to get leaner and more defined. I was always like, the goal needs to be bulk to Rumble. Get as fat as you can. Get as greasy as you can. Starfish on the canvas. So good luck. If I'm 300 pounds and I'm as oily as can be, good luck trying to pick me up and get me over the top rope. So that was something that the three of us, me, Kofi, and Austin, would always joke about. But I always just wanted to do this for a backstage, and I just had, and I always, you look a little bit better when you have a little bit of a sheen.
Sure.
So I would always wear baby oil or cocoa butter, anyways. But I was like, I need to quadruple coat this time. I'm like, I need to put a coat on. So I think I started like an hour early, put a coat on, put another coat on 30 minutes before, and just kept adding coats of baby oil. So that was it, man. I was, that was my strategy going into Rumble, is letting y'all know I'm about to be real greasy. Good luck trying to throw me over that top rope.
That has to be the most shared meme of Big E.
It has
to be.
It might be. It might be. I do see it a lot. It's a bit much. But yeah, it got out of hand, and I don't want to talk about something that I think is very serious. But there was a certain entertainer who got in trouble for very horrible things, and then the baby oil stuff. I also got thrown into all that as well, so that didn't help.
How did "Don't You Dare Be Sour" become your catchphrase?
So, Vince wanted us to have some kind of an intro, and so I never wanted to be the focal point of the group, because I did not think that was fair to the other three. So I felt like, so we went into the studio, we got to work with Jim Johnson, who was just
the GOAT,
the legend.
Yeah.
To actually be in the studio with him in Stanford. So we went up to shoot our vignettes, And we also got to be in the studio with him to work on it. And it was just so great to hear his ideas and to chop it up with him. And just, it was awesome. Such a great experience. But so I went into the booth, and one of the things I wanted is for me to lay down a bit of an intro. So it's a new day. Yes, it is. That's like, we did that. So I thought, okay, this is our little preamble, because I always think with wrestling themes, you always want that when you hear the glass break, you know it's Austin in 2 seconds.
The gong.
Like, yep. I always want that within 2 seconds. I always want you to know exactly who it is. So I thought that was our thing. Okay, we have it's a new day. Yes, it is. We're good. But The Office still, they wanted they wanted something else on top of that. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll try something. And I want to say we were tinkering around with a few different, I'd have to go back and listen to those first couple ones, because I know I didn't have, my thought was, I'll come up with something new for each town. And we did something like, we were in Fort Lauderdale. And the only reason I remember this is because Austin or Woods and Kofi would often like mention it. But my first one was something like, oh, Fort Lauderdale. We were in Fort Lauderdale. Oh, Fort Lauderdale. You feel it in your body. I came up with a different rhyme, and I forgot how I closed it. But I was like, this isn't tenable. I'm not going to be able to come up with something for especially then. If you're on the Raw loops, you're doing 5 shows a week, every single week in a different town. Like, I'm not going to have the time and the acumen to come up with a new little 4-bar rhyme for every single town. So I don't remember exactly how we settled on it, but I kept tinkering around with it a little bit. And I'm sure I probably saw one of those hand dryers that says Feel the Power, because people will send that to me from time to time. I'm sure it was that being in my head. But I just wanted something with all town and somehow end with, we decided, I think fairly early, that Feel the Power was something that was going to be a good catchphrase. So we just kind of worked backwards from there with the Don't You Dare Be Sour. Okay, that'll work. So we tinkered with it a little bit, and then I just felt like, okay, that's the thing moving forward. And it's been great, because now not only do I have a thing that works for the New Day and in wrestling, but also, I got to do the intros for like NASCAR. So it's like, okay, I have this built-in thing. I got to do the last 2 walkouts for Showtime Sean Porter in boxing. He fought Errol Spence, which was a big deal. I got to do that walkout. I got to do his walkout for the Bud Crawford fight as well. So now having this built-in thing that I can kind of tinker with, I'm on Cameo, and right now I'm doing a lot of stuff. So all my cameos right now, the proceeds used to go to Feeding America. We raised over $30,000 for Feeding America, but now they're going to to NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So I do all that just for charity. But then now that's the nice thing is I have this built-in thing for, Chris, don't you dare be sour. Clap for your birthday and feel the power. So it's nice having this thing that people know that I can just kind of tinker with and use for anything.
I don't think people ever thought that the New Day would break up. And this all ends up culminating with Kofi and Xavier turning on you. You end up being a pawn in this.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the buildup of them turning heel on you.
So I think a lot of people, I know a lot of the complaints afterwards were, oh, if Biggie wasn't going to get cleared, why are we doing this? The goal was, we were not in limbo about me being cleared or not. We knew that those guys really wanted to turn heel, and they wanted to do something with me that would service that. Initially, the goal was, so Jay was a babyface at the time, Uso, very hot, and the initial thought was, okay, we'll do something where we ended up, the physicality is on Jay. That gets shut down. We thought, oh, Truth is beloved. Maybe the physicality would be on Truth. That gets shut down. So we thought, okay, these guys want to turn heel. I know I'm not going to be clear. We're not leading to anything with those guys. So they kind of came up with a bit of an idea. And I thought, okay, cool. This is what you want to do. I'm still in this position where I'm with the company, and it doesn't behoove me for me to be a heel commentator on the broad. Like, that's not what we're trying to do. And so much of what I was doing at the time was I was doing, putting out a short film, Bridges, about Ruby Bridges. So much of what kind of was really filling the bucket for me was giving back. So it just didn't make a lot of sense for me to try to be a heel or any of that. So I was like, this is the message I'm putting out in the world. I'm talking about meditation and mindfulness. So I'm going to remain a babyface. Those guys will be heels. So it wasn't long before we all kind of put our heads together and we had this idea. We never really had seen a turn with no physicality. And in like the month or so prior, those guys were doing such a great job of building tension between the two of them. And man, I still remember that one promo they cut where they lose the tag match. I love that. I feel like we do it less these days, but that follow shot where the camera is with them, with their frustration at the end of the match, follows them through Gorilla to outside of Gorilla. And we see Kof and Woods just saying terrible things to each other. And I think that what I love about that moment is we have been so purposeful about always talking about our brotherhood, how close we are, never breaking up. We love each other. We're always fighting for each other. The importance of KofiMania and the sacrifice of me and Austin to make the sacrifice for Kofi because we love him so much. So this is the first time you really see any real tension. And to see, it's like this idea of the worst things that you've been holding on that you can't say to your brother because you love him. But these things have been, they're floating in there. But now, in this moment of anger, saying the things that you can't take back. So those guys did such a phenomenal job of building tension. And, the timing was also great for me and the message I was putting out in the world because the Players Tribune article actually came out the same day we did the turn. So Sauer comes out that morning and people are hearing, I think one of the lines in there was about how the New Day saved me, about how this brotherhood and this path we took together just changed me in so many ways. So to have that heartfelt thing come out, talking about my own struggles with mental health, and then that same day have the breakup, it just felt so juicy. But for me, we always had to be so, we were often referred to it as happy clappy. That idea of, hey, we drop a title the next night. And that was the directive is, hey, you still come out with a big smile on your face. You still come out clapping. We never really got to do anything with some real, you could argue KofiMania had emotional weight, but nothing like this. So the idea of doing something with some real gravitas or something that actually hit people in the chest was exciting. So I had some feedback and I thought the idea of please forgive me, audience, but I thought the idea of throwing out this hook of I could return, I could help you remember who you are, I could come here, I'm not cleared yet, but I'll be your manager, I'll be here with you weekly, we'll bring back that old New Day that people remember and love, we'll get our juice back. I love the idea of throwing out a hook that got people up and then having those two take it away. And just that moment of, and for me too, I try to sit in that kind of, with the article, I was reliving a lot of my pain, a lot of my struggle, and I just wanted to stay in that feeling. As someone who's trying to do more acting and learning more about actors' process, I wanted it to feel real and genuine. So I tried to.
Oh, we felt it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted. So I tried to stay in. I tried to keep those feelings in mind and thinking about my angst and carry that with me to that performance later that night. And we were just outside. I think we were in Everett, Washington, and I had so many people reach out and talked about. Look, I know this is entertainment. I know it's a show. But man, it's heartbreaking. I had so many people who were like, man, is this, like people who know that what we do is a work, but like, is this real? Are you guys actually talking? Like, I know it's a show, but is this real behind the scenes? But I love that we were able to really hook people. I think unfortunately, those guys were getting booed out of the building for this first several weeks. It's the follow-up that unfortunately I don't think went as well as we all would have liked. I even pitched the idea of, I love the idea of, me sitting for the Rumble. Imagine Kofi does a save where he ends up on the barricade. There's some dude with his hat low because they were taking shots at my fiance at the time too. So I love the idea. Maybe our hats are real low at the time. Kofi lands on the barricade. We tilt our heads up, take our hats off, and then maybe there's a swipe of the foot and we cost him the Rumble. He goes out. Something like that.
Yeah.
But creative had other plans. I was told, hey, that's something we can get to later. And I'm not a save it guy. I will oftentimes people are like, oh, let's save that idea for later. But things with creative and direction move so much. When you have a great idea, I'm like, let's capitalize on it now. But ultimately, those were the two who were going to carry it. Creative was, they had ideas. My role is now as a broadcaster for the PLEs. So ultimately, I just thought, let's try to make this breakup the best we can. And the rest is in their hands. So unfortunately, the follow-up of that turn didn't go the way we wanted, but we were proud of the initial heel turn.
Was it the frustration of how that heel turn went that led to Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston leaving WWE?
I don't want to speak for them. I know, when the time is right, I'm sure they'll have a lot of things to say. There are things out there about pay cuts and whatnot. I just know, look, this ownership is not the same ownership that existed when we first signed to the company. It is their company. It is not ours. So they make their decisions with how pay goes, and ultimately, like, we all have to abide by that. And you understand that it is not your ball. It was not our ball when we first signed to the company. It is not our ball now. It is someone else's ball to determine when you get in the game and how many carries you got. So they made a decision, and look, I just kind of want to leave that in their hands to be able to decide. I can't fully speak to a lot of that, but I think we as performers, you all want to feel valued. You want to feel like people want you here. There's a plan for you, and we're gonna compensate you accordingly. And when you feel like that plan is not in accordance with your plan, or the money doesn't line up with the way you see yourself valued, you have to make a decision on whether you're going to say, yes, this is what I will accept, or no, this is not what I'm going to accept. So they made a decision to step away, and I respect. Those guys will always be my family, regardless of what company we're in, regardless of how old we are. What we built is bigger than companies. It's bigger than our industry. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be in the financial position I'm in. I wouldn't have the breadth and myriad of incredible experiences. Even just getting comfortable in my own skin, I credit those guys for so much of that. Man, I look back, our time in the New Day, and we could talk about how my career was cut short. We could talk about the things that didn't happen in my career, but I knew I was in the good old days when I was in the good old days. I knew this was it, and I was able to enjoy it. And you're always pushing for more. You're annoyed with booking or disgruntled with certain decisions. But I knew we had lightning in a bottle, and not just on screen, but off screen. The way we traveled together, the laughs we had. I can't tell you how many times I had to wipe tears of laughter out of my eyes. So many times when we had too much fun. I don't think we never had a blow up. We never had an argument. We never had a time where we butted heads, really ever. If we had any minor disagreements, they were about creative process, and we were able to get on the same page immediately. The way we work together, our synergy, it's special. So those guys are family and will always be family, and I will always root for their prosperity. I will always root for their fulfillment. I just want them to be happy. So if they're happy at home, if they're happy wrestling in VFW halls, if they're happy doing conventions, gaming, whatever it is that they want to do with their lives that fulfills them, and as long as they ain't hurting anyone, I fully support it.
I imagine the answer is yes, but you're still really tight with those guys.
Always, man. Those are my guys. So yeah, man, we still have a group text. We still talk all the time. We're still always conversing about life, and they got 3 kids apiece. So always talking about the boys and Kof's daughter. So yeah, man, that's family forever.
You mentioned KofiMania. If we take it back years before that, Road Dogg talked about the idea of you becoming WWE Champion before Kofi. What did that conversation end up looking like?
So I remember being on SmackDown, and if you're in the industry long enough, I always operate with this idea of I'll believe it when it's actually here. I'll believe it when the title is in my hands. I'll believe it then.
When you hear the 1, 2, 3.
That's it. Yeah. Okay, this is real. Because look, we all know I've been in matches. There was a mixed match challenge. The mixed match challenge match I had It was me and Carmella, who was such a fun collaborator. She was amazing. Against Miz and Asuka. The finish, we were 2/3 of the way through that match when our finish got changed. And not just, so it's like me and Miz were supposed to be in the ring for the finish. Now we needed to have the ladies, and not just, hey, the other guy is going over, but now the other set. So having to navigate how to get the other people in the ring for the finish, and those two, Asuka and Carmella, just did it seamlessly, did a beautiful job.
And this is happening through the referee going, oh, we're changing this.
Yep.
And then to the next person, we're changing. Yeah.
Yeah, and for people who don't really fully understand our industry, like the refs are so pivotal with relaying messages, the earpiece they have, we get our times through them. We understand if there are any notes from Gorilla about what you need to do or do this then or interact with that person. Like they are our conduit to Gorilla. So yeah, I've been so used to things changing. But Road Dogg had that conversation with me, and I thought, okay, cool. That must mean I'm doing something right. We'll see. But
so around what time is this?
Man, this
KofiMania is 2019.
I want to say it might have just been a year prior. I feel like it was 2018, and he discussed it with me, but it kind of didn't go anywhere. It didn't happen. But I was like, man, we're in a good spot right now. We'll keep pushing. We'll keep pitching. So yeah, I think it was just about a year prior, and it just didn't come to fruition. But as we all know, like Kofi's been open about it. That was not the plan. KofiMania was not planned. It was because Mustafa had the injury, which was a real injury. Kofi got slotted in, and just organically, people got behind him. So yeah, I want to say it might have been earlier 2019, but I don't think so because actually that whole KofiMania push was pretty early.
It's like Elimination Chamber.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It was the early part. So I'm going to say it was 2018. We had the brief discussion about possibly putting the title on me.
When did the conversation start happening in 2021 when you did win the WWE title?
Yeah, I got to give Brian a lot of credit for that, man. Brian was the reason. He was in creative at the time, still wasn't cleared. And he pushed for me to do some singles stuff. So Woods had his injury. He was out at the time. It might have been the Achilles still. So he ruptured his Achilles in Australia, I think in 2019. And it's a long process. So I think he was still out with that. And it was just me and Kofi doing some tag stuff for a while. And that whole like pandemic wrestling was just very weird. But Kofi actually, I think Kofi actually needed a surgery. I know there was one surgery where he had to get some chips removed from his ankle. He had another with his elbow. I think he was out at the time, and we did this promo where he gives me his blessing. But that was Brian in creative saying, hey, I think Big E's gotten to a point where we'd love to see a singles push. So I was really fortunate to get the IC title run. I beat Sammy for that, and Sammy was just a lot of fun as a character then. We ran for a little bit. And had the stuff with Apollo, ended up dropping the title to him at Mania. So I don't remember when I was first informed, but I believe that Money in the Bank field, I think, was kind of already set. And I want to say I was a little bit of a last-minute addition as far as creative. I think they had a plan already. Then I was informed that I was going to be in the Money in the Bank match and win. And then it became clear, like, hey, the plan is to put the title on you. And man, I'm so grateful for that time because if my career was just the time with the New Day, getting to win a couple IC titles, being able to have a strong mid-card run, I'm not saying I would have settled for that and been okay with it, but I was really proud of the career I built. There are a lot of wrestlers who are much more talented than I, who've been doing this for longer, who never get a chance to hold that world title. So I was really fortunate to be able to have that run, but I got to give a lot of credit to Brian. And there are a lot of talent in our industry who are very selfish. Especially, unfortunately, when I first got signed, we ran into a lot of older talent who are more concerned with gatekeeping and pushing talent down and burying talent. But I have a lot of love for him and Punk as well. Punk is also someone who saved my career back in 2014, before I got my first IC title run, either 2013 or 2014, I was floundering. At the time, talent so we would do Raw on Mondays, we would tape SmackDown on Tuesdays, and there was a handful of talent, a lot of guys who would, in a few months, they were about to be sent back down to NXT or just fired flat out, who would be off the main roster. And there were certain guys who, so everyone was going to Raw, and then for the most part, the rest of the roster, besides a lot of the bigger name talent, would also come to SmackDown. But there were a handful of talent who only went to SmackDown, and they were only working either superstars or main event, but they weren't really a factor. So right before Punk asked to work with me, I was every week. So I was done with AJ at the time, being her bodyguard, and at the time, I would check the lineup every week. I was off every single week. I wasn't doing anything at all, and I was starting to get worried about my position here. And there was one Monday where Travel would reach out to me and let me know my week. And the next week, I was not booked for Raw. I was just booked for SmackDown, and I knew what that meant. I knew the guys who were SmackDown only. It meant, hey, we got nothing for you, and essentially, we're going to get you out of here pretty soon, either back down to developmental or out of here altogether. And I thought, man, this is not good. But that same day was the day I found out from AJ Lee that Punk he never told me. But I show up to the building, and I think it was Arn or Jamie who told me that you have a match with Punk. I got 2 segments to open the show, I believe, with Punk. And I talked to him beforehand, and we kind of had a finish at the end. But he's one of those guys who essentially calls the vast majority of the match out there. So it was my first time. I told myself I just had to relax. I wasn't nervous because I just had to go out there and listen. And thankfully, it went well enough for him to want to work with me again. We either worked that next, I can't remember if we worked that next day or the next week, but we worked again. And I was a heel at the time, but I got to turn face. We had a tag match with Rybaxel, and then I got to have my IC title run. But that only came because Punk talked to Creative, he talked to The Office, and he said, I want to work with Big E. And when I went up to him later and thanked him, all he said was something like, talented people deserve an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that meant a lot, man. Like we weren't friends at the time. We weren't close. He just saw someone who thought deserved an opportunity to do more. And that was, I'm telling you, I truly believe if not for that moment, I don't have a job. If it wasn't for Brian pushing for me to have a singles run, I don't think I ever hold the world title. I probably don't get a second IC title run. So, man, it's big ups to all the OGs and the vets in this business who actually look out for young talent.
When you were paired with Dolph Ziggler and AJ Lee, you're making this entrance. You're getting all hyped up. You know where I'm going with this.
Oh, good.
You smack her right in the chest.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind?
Terror. She is so beloved. So, the 5 count, mind you, this is the day after WrestleMania. We have WrestleMania 29, which is my first main roster match. I had been just a heater the whole time in Dolph and AJ's corner, slowly getting my feet wet, doing some interference, but never had a match. We have this tag match with Team Hell No. They're red hot at the time. They retain the tag titles. The next night, I have my very first singles match on the main roster. And Dolph and AJ are coming out with me. We're at the Izod Center in New Jersey. And
this is where Dolph ends up cashing in later on that night.
It's the same night
yeah.
he cashes in. So earlier I have this match, and I kept thinking, okay, I can't do the 5 count. So I'm so used to when I came out on my entrance, the last time I had a singles match, I was doing this maniacal 5 count. I need something. And before that, I was struggling to think of something. I had this entrance too where I had this bag of powder as a former power lifter. I would rub my hands together and do the old LeBron clap,
yeah.
And the powder would go up. That was something. And I just didn't want to come out as just a guy with nothing. So I was like, I don't have a gimmick or a character, but I need something. And the last thing I remember doing was I would just kind of come out and I would swing my arms, and it's it's nothing, but I got to do something. So let me just swing my arms. And I didn't think about the fact that I'm used to coming out with no one around me. I didn't think about my circumference and who I might potentially hit. So I just thought, all right, I'll come out swinging my arms. It did not occur to me to think about where everyone was and to think about the space. So, I'm sure I'm probably very nervous because this is a match with, one of the greatest to ever do it, and Daniel Bryan. We have a short match. For some reason, I'm going over as well. So I just come out, start swinging my arms violently, and I just feel this thud. And I know where Dolph is. I know out of the corner of my eye, I could see him. I know I didn't hit Dolph. I said, oh no. This tiny, beloved woman, I just hit her in the face. I broke her nose. I'm going to turn around and blood is going to be pouring from her nose. I'm not even going to have the match. Someone from security, Jim Kelly, is going to grab me. They're going to take me to the back. They're going to fire me right away. They're going to kick me out. It's over. It is done. And there's, you see this brief, there are people who've done like a slow-mo version of that GIF and will send it to me. And there's this brief moment of absolute terror because I realize what I've done. So I feel like my shoulders, my traps tighten. And I say, oh no.
And then you give her a little tap on the back.
A little tap. I look, and she's just smiling at me. Thankfully, it was just all sternum. A little like, that was a little, thank God you're okay. Thank God this is, because imagine.
The look on Ziggler's face is actually interesting because he's kind of like.
I thought looking back at it, I thought he might deck me for it. But thankfully, because I'm new at the time, I'm not someone who is established with this audience at all. If I hurt this woman that is so beloved, it's curtains for me. But like you said, man, thankfully that she was fine. We have the match later. Dolph goes in to have that epic cash in. We're all celebrating. But I just imagine if her nose was in a splint, if she was bleeding in that moment, just completely ruined. Then she would go on later. I think she did some talk when her book was out about how I broke her sternum. She knew how bad I felt, so she loved making me feel even worse about it. So I appreciate that.
Before you were really getting noticed, I feel like what kind of put you on the map was doing this 575-pound bench press at John Cena's gym. Had you ever lifted that much weight up to that point?
No, that was a PR. That was my best bench ever.
What was your best bench to that point?
Ooh, we were getting, I would say because I got to give a lot of credit to Rob McIntyre, who like Cena's best friend. We would train under him at FCW. So when I first got to Cena's gym, we all trained there, I think 2010. It wasn't long before you noticed like I had an acumen for lifting. So he kind of took me under his wing and we started doing some powerlifting training. We did a meet in Florida. And then we did nationals as well. I want to say my best bench was somewhere around 550. It wasn't far off. I knew it was weight.
That's a lot more.
It's a significant jump, but I was feeling at that time, so I'm about 260 right now. My heaviest, I've been as heavy as 317 in the company. So I was, at the time, Rob just had me on top of all my regular diet. I would also throw in like an extra DiGiorno's pizza. So I was stuffing myself.
That sounds wonderful.
It does sound wonderful until you have to force feed yourself 7 times a day.
How many calories do you think you were taking in?
I was probably somewhere around 5,000-6,000.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of calories, but it was necessary I'm not someone who is good at being strong when I'm leaner. I'm so much stronger when I'm a little bit fatter. Like it worked well for me. So that day was really cool because I was a nobody. I was in FCW. And it's a nice little like a screenshot of where we are at that time because Roman's spotting me. Roman's not on the main roster yet. We're all these hungry guys trying to get more TV time, trying to get more opportunities.
And also, Cena's masterminding this as he's preparing for his match with The Rock at WrestleMania.
Yeah,
so like that shows where he's at.
Absolutely, and it's billed as this once-in-a-lifetime thing. And he told me beforehand. So we all just happened to be in the gym. The doc crew was there. And he told me, if you can hit this 575-pound bench, I will make sure that this is in the doc. And like, I have nothing to do with their build. I'm a nobody. But just the fact that not only did he say that, but he kept his word as well. Man, that was something that was really special. So I remember feeling really good at the time. At the time, I don't think I was as heavy as 317, but I'm probably a good 310 pounds. So I'm in there, Roman's spotting me, just need a lift off. And I'm not an arch guy on the bench at all. I never feel like I have good control when I arch my back at all. So I was pretty flat with my bench press. I don't use elbow sleeves or anything at all. Just raw in the purest sense. And there are a lot of people throughout my life, people have always speculated about me being on gear or steroids. I tell people I've been drug tested since I was 14. I've never touched a thing. I'd be down to take a lie detector. I have never, the hardest thing I've ever taken was creatine, truly. Like I'm just very blessed. My dad was, and he's still alive, he's almost 90 years old, but was just, especially in his prime, just a hoss of a man. So a lot of it is just genetics. And I started lifting very, very young. My dad got me some sand weights probably around the time I was 10, but I started lifting for real. I would just do like curls and I didn't know what I was doing. But I actually learned to train for real in middle school at the age of 12. And I was obsessed with the gym. I would spend my lunch period working out. When I went to Tampa Prep in middle and high school, I would work out. Sometimes I'd work out in the morning for about 45 minutes before school. I would work out at lunch for about another 45 minutes, half an hour. And then I would work out again at the end of the day for another 3-4 hours. I'm telling you, I probably would be in the gym 6 days a week, 5 to 6 days a week for 4 to 5 hours. I should have been a lot more efficient, but I just loved it. And I just stayed in the gym. I think to this day, I'm pretty sure I still have the bench press record at Iowa for defensive linemen at 475. But I tore my pec in college and I thought, maybe I'll never get back. But thankfully rehab went well. But anyways, I get to this point where I'm training with Rob and I'm eating DiGiorno's pizzas by the day. I'm getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And that day, just everything I felt great. Things were moving really well. So I hit the 575-pound bench. And just to see it.
And then it was like you guys won the championship.
Yeah, and that
what
feeling
a
was
moment.
dope. Yeah, I love that feeling, man.
And then Cena starts the
slow clap.
Slow clap.
Yeah, and we hit the the blood sport? Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, man, that was a cool moment.
Big meaty men slapping meat.
Mm-hmm.
Had you ever said that before?
No. I think it was my first time. And it is that silly clip, I feel like is going to outlive me of all the things I've done in my career, but I'm grateful for it. So, and the really cool thing is I got to have, so a lot of times the clip gets shortened, so you don't see who asks the question. But that's my brother, that's my guy, Rashad Dunn, former Iowa football player. We came in, we're the same age. He's like 3-4 days older than me. So we came in at the same time. We were roommates for 2 years. We still talk all the time. We have this core group of guys who lived in a house, actually the same house so George Kittle has 830 Miller tattooed on his ass because that's the house. CJ Beathard, who played with the 49ers as well, also went to Iowa. So those guys, many years after us, they lived in the same house that we lived in, 830 Miller in Iowa City. That was our house as well. So Rashad, we flew him out to do the podcast, and we did this mailbag episode. And he asked me the question. So the guys are they're already getting primed for it because we do so much press together. We did so many interviews. They knew I was doing the Goldberg, and I would always ham it up a bit. I mean, I hammed everything up definitely at the time too.
Sure.
So they knew the Goldberg answer was coming. So that's why you hear some of the little the giggles and the tee-hees coming already. But we would always have a lot of fun. Anytime people would ask us our dream match, I knew every time Woods was going to say Too Cold Scorpio. He's a huge Too Cold Scorpio fan. Just for his athleticism is kind of just ridiculous for a guy of his size.
Way ahead of his time.
Absolutely
Yes.
was. That moonsault leg drop he did is insane.
Crazy.
Insane. We always knew that Kofi was going to answer. He's a big Shawn Michaels guy, so he's always going to answer Shawn. And they always knew my answer was Goldberg. So yeah, man, the Goldberg answer just came out. And sometimes when we all had a fit of the giggles and sometimes you're just feeling it. And that was just one of those moments where I started getting hot. I felt the sweat come in, but just the energy of the room was a lot of fun. And and then a bunch of nonsense proceeded from that. But to see years later, to hear meat chants at shows, I'm not saying this is the reason why, but Booker now is doing the no bread, no water, just meat. The fact that meat is, people understand when you're in a wrestling setting and you're talking about meat, you know, whether it's the big meaty men or the big meaty ladies, I love that that is the way you describe a hoss match. And to this day, on Twitter, on Instagram, I will still have people tag me, oh, I know Big E is smiling now if there's an Oba Brock match, or even like an indie match where two big men or two big women are going toe to toe. So it is a very, very silly thing. I thought we were going to be able to make merch, but I was told at the time that legal said no dice, so there's no merch. I know. But it's a lot of fun, and I'm glad of all the things we've done. I'm glad that's followed me.
On the interview I did with Goldberg, he said he'd be super open to that match. Like he wishes that match could have happened.
Yeah, it's been really cool. And honestly, and the reason it was Goldberg for me, and I am not going to tell people how to feel about Goldberg. There are people who feel like his moveset is very limited. There are people who have thoughts about him. I'm just telling you, this man captured my imagination as a child. And I just thought, man, if you go back to those WCW shows and you see the energy in those arenas.
During the streak, there was something so special, certainly about his entrance, but then about those matches, just pure squash matches.
Yeah, man, they were just, as a kid, I just thought he was the coolest thing going. And then I got to meet him at a signing in Tampa, and he was so cool. And that moment, and the really great thing was I got to thank him. We were both in the Rumble. I think he might have had a match, but we were both at the Rumble in Tampa, actually in St. Pete, in must have been 2020 or 2020. It was a pandemic, no fans. And just to be able to tell him, thank you for being so cool when I was a kid. And this is when he was red hot, still in WCW, probably circa 99, late 90s. So like almost 25 years, more than 2 decades ago, you spent 30 seconds with me and my dad, and you complimented us on our suits because we were on our way to church. You had a smile on your face. It was just, I knew in that moment, he had an opportunity to kind of ruin things forever for me. That idea of never meeting your heroes. He could have made that moment something that would have always stuck with me as a really awful moment and something that kind of ruined elements of my childhood. But he decided in that moment to be gracious, to be kind, to be complimentary. And it's something I always carry with me, man. It doesn't matter how jet lagged I am, how tired I am. When it comes to kids, never, ever be short, never be rude. If you can, always take a moment to sign, to smile, to say hello. Sometimes I'm being rushed out of things, and I especially sometimes I feel bad because we oftentimes do our pre-shows. We'll start the first hour outdoors, and then we'll come inside, and we have times to hit. So you can't stop and sign for everyone. But I try to never be short with anyone, never be rude, especially with kids. And that really stuck with me. So Goldberg, for me, was someone who captured my imagination as a kid. I got to actually meet him, and he was everything I wanted him to be and more as a young teen. Then get to share a locker room with him. We got to do something for the hot wings. I am blanking on
Buffalo Wild Wings?
No. The First You Feast. The Sean Evans is the host.
Yeah, Sean Evans.
Hot ones.
Yeah,
we did hot ones. Yes, we did hot ones together, and it wasn't the traditional hot ones, but we got to do that together, and he was lovely. So for me, I'm always grateful. You know, there are certain guys now where I'm inspired by so many other wrestlers. Now that I actually got to get into the industry and the business, there's so many other wrestlers that I'm inspired by and that I think are really talented. But Goldberg will always just have a special place in my heart for just the way he treated me, and I appreciate him. So yeah, to be able to kind of have that moment in that clip with him was really cool. I wish we got to have a match, but you know, the whole broken neck thing kind of was a bit of an issue there.
Are you able now to look back on your career as a whole, start to finish, from your debut to your last match, and understand what it meant to you and also understand what it meant to fans?
Yeah, what a joy it was to get to entertain people across the globe. What an absolute blessing. For fans, you legitimately saved me. You gave me purpose. You made me feel like I was good at something. I got to try something difficult and realize I was capable of doing difficult things. It helped make me become a better man. I got to better understand that I had value in this world, that I had something to offer. I had this hole, this void in me when football was done. And I felt like I was in grad school and I was doing well in grad school, but I thought, is this the rest of my life to have to put that part of me away, to never be an athlete again, to never be able to entertain people? I was never ready for that. And I would have these dreams that kind of haunted me, and I would dream that I was back on the practice field playing, and there's so many of us who, and one of the reasons I want to have this conversation with the book, How I Got Over, is I also know a lot of football players who, even if you spend a decade in the league, I know guys who get to play in the league, great career, make a ton of money, they get out and they still feel so lost. They don't have purpose. They struggle to find drive. And that was me for a long time. But I got to fill that void that existed because of the lack of football, because that was over, got to be filled and then some in wrestling. I really got to a point where I felt like, no, my purpose was not to be this NFL player. My purpose was to do this. There's so many times in my career as a wrestler where I thought, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to be. So I got to have the most fun, to break a record Demolition held for more than 2 decades, to have an in-ring promo back and forth for a while with The Rock, to get to be WWE Champion, Mr. Money in the Bank. But more than anything, to get to have moments where fans will come up to me and say, you saved me, or I got to bond with my child because of you, or you helped me through a difficult moment. That is what, as a performer, what greater blessing is there? And I am so filled with gratitude that people cared enough to tune in, that they appreciated what I had to offer. I had so much fun. This path it's often meant you have to deal with missing birthdays and holidays. There are a lot of sacrifices, but I signed up knowing I would have to make those sacrifices, and the juice was always worth the squeeze. I'm not going to say that breaking my neck was a joyful experience, but I would do it again. I would do everything all over again. If I had the opportunity, if I got to see how it all played out from 2009 to now, when I signed to WWE, and I got to see all the pitfalls, all the heartbreak, all the injuries, all the ups and downs, and I was asked, would you do it again?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of that is, I was very blessed to share a locker room with so many great men and women. I got to perform. I got to learn so much about myself. This performance bug I have in me that I can't let go, I discovered that in wrestling. People now, I'm fortunate enough to be able to do things in sports and in entertainment, and people are so often blown away by the fact that we can be given, hey, here's 2 new paragraphs, digest them within 30 minutes. Are you sure that's okay? Fine, I'll look at it, I'll scan it for a minute or two, go over it a few times, I got it. But that muscle it's through WWE. It's through my time of having to learn how to improv. It's learning how to, hey, you have to go out in 30 seconds. You just lost 3 minutes. Figure it out. So you have that repetition and that timing, that chaos of dealing with our changing nature of our shows, of our promos. It really helped me become more flexible as an entertainer. So yeah, man, I am just so grateful for my time in the company. If it ends tomorrow, if they kick me out the door and they say, see ya, what a ride it has been to have accomplished the things that I've been able to accomplish. I'm so grateful for it all. But so many people opened doors for me, man. I could thank Mike Doherty at Iowa, who was the reason he met Jim Ross randomly on a plane. And I look back at my life, and there's so many of these moments of happenstance where I'm so blown away that Mike Doherty, this guy who was really good friends with Dan Gable at Iowa, he was a wrestler at Iowa and Iowa State. He's now like a businessman in the state of Iowa, but he was randomly on a plane with JR 2 times when JR was still with WWE. And they just ended up talking about Iowa and wrestling, and he was kind of informally set up as the scout. Turns out that he was friends with Mike Humple. Mike Humple was a teammate of mine at Iowa who had a neck injury at the time. He was drafted by the Steelers, but we were training together. Even though I was done playing, he was done at Iowa, but Coach Doyle at Iowa said, hey, come in, work out together. So we were training at the same time. And if it wasn't for Mike Doherty being on this plane randomly 2 times with JR and being friends with Mike Humple talking to me, I never get to WWE. Wow. It wasn't even on my radar. Same thing like with Iowa. I was a senior. I am maybe 5'11". I played my senior year at 235, trying to play defensive tackle, which ideally you want someone who's at least 6'2", you want someone who's at least 290. I wasn't even close to that. My plan was to walk on at Florida at the time. I had a Bright Future scholarship, which would have covered all of my academic stuff. And I was just going to walk on at Florida and give it a shot, which probably would not have worked out. But I was my senior year, which your junior year is your critical year for getting recruited. My senior year, I am done with the season. I am just planning on walking on at Florida. In comes walking in. So the weight room at the high school I went to is connected to the coach's office. The only way to get to the coach's office is to walk through the weight room. I'm just in there working out. At the time, I'm doing 315 on bench. At the age, I'm 18, 315 for a set of 10, just cranking it out. Phil Parker, who is actually won the Broyles Award for the best assistant coach in all of college football a few years ago. He was the defensive backs coach at Iowa then, and he was recruiting the state of Florida. He's walking in to talk about guys a year younger than me, prospective juniors or juniors at Wharton, the high school I went to at the time. He's not worried about me. He's not thinking about me. I'm the only person in the weight room. He walks by through this weight room to talk to my high school coach and sees me benching 315 for a set of 10. He has to ask, who is this guy? What's going on with him? Turns out a defensive lineman at Iowa just left the program. They had an open spot. Turns out the defensive line coach at Iowa at the time, who would also go on to win this prestigious award for assistant coach of the year, he actually coached my mentor and my defensive line coach in high school. And that's the only reason. So it's these moments of being at the right place at the right time, these people who opened doors for me. I should have never gotten to play football at Iowa. And if it wasn't for Iowa, if I don't get to Iowa, I never get to WWE. So I look back at my life and I get chills now. And I'm thinking, whether it's God, the universe, karma, whatever it is, there's this force that has looked out for me. And I've dealt with some horrible things, some heavy things, some dark things. But ultimately, the beauty in my life, the opportunities, the love that people have shown me, the doors that have been opened to me, it is hard not to believe that there is some grand design for my life, that someone, something, God has looked out for me and has made sure that you're going to go through some things, but you're going to be okay. These doors are going to be open for you. And that's why I wanted to write this book. That's why I wanted just to talk to people, because for so long, I could not understand where my life was headed. I felt so hopeless. I felt directionless. I felt rudderless. I felt like there was no plan for me, and this was all going to end in disaster. But now, at 40, I can look back and think, I had so many people who were such a blessing to me, so many things, so many doors open to me, so many people who were putting a word in for me that would change my life that I had no idea or understanding of. And I feel like my life is a message of hope. And I hope more people who are struggling right now can understand that maybe your life feels hopeless right now. Maybe you feel like you're underwater right now. Maybe this feels like the end, but there is hope around the corner. This doesn't have to be your story. And I think if I had gone to the lengths of taking myself out, of committing suicide when it was all I could think of, when I was 19, 20 years old, when I was sure I didn't want to be here, man, I would have missed out on so much. And it's really not. It has less to do with the spotlight, the fame, the money, all those things. It has more to do with connection, with finding love, with finding self-love. More than anything, getting to a point where I can accept my flaws, I can accept the things that used to eat me up inside. Just getting to a point where I understand I am worthy of good things. I am worthy of love, that life can feel ugly and heavy, but man, there is also so much beauty out here. Man, I feel my soul is lit afire when I am with the people I love, when we get to spend time celebrating each other. The act of service is so rewarding for me. I've gotten to a point where I feel so settled in myself. I used to be so worried about what life after wrestling would look like. I am so filled with purpose and excitement. I am so hopeful about what my 40s will look like, about what my 50s and beyond will look like. I am so grateful for this time. And I have to thank so many people, but I've also had this perspective of trying to always find the silver lining. When bad things happen, I have to find a way to make good or to take something from this. It might not ever overpower what was lost or what was taken, but losing one of my best friends in Brody, Jon Huber, Luke Harper, a man of many names, his loss, that hole in my life, that him leaving us can never be replaced by any message or lesson learned. But I told myself, we don't know how much time we're going to have. And you can understand this cognitively, but sometimes it takes a loss of that magnitude for it to be fully entrenched in you. And then I'm loath to describe it as a near-death experience, but also breaking my neck and understanding how close I was to never being the same again or not being here at all. When you have those moments, for me, just they really lit the spark of go after what you want now. For so long, I was like, I want to be a better person one day. I want to look a certain way one day. I want to take some leaps in my life one day. And this Brody's loss and the neck injury were just further reminders that none of this, truly none of this is promised. And if my story ends tomorrow, I'm grateful that I tried, that I got to take leaps. I'm so blessed and so fortunate, but there's so many other things that I want to do in life as well. So man, I have learned so much about life. I've learned so much about myself. I am so grateful for this wrestling community. Oftentimes we focus on what's toxic. We focus on, and that element exists, but I've also found so much community. I've found so much love. I have found a lot of people who have really just made me feel like this is a space that I belong. And man, my message is just one of gratitude. I'm really, really grateful for my career. I hope that people who watched it enjoyed it. If I wasn't for you, I get it. I'm not sure if I was a kid. I'm not sure if I would have been for me. But I had a ton of fun. I have zero regrets, and I'm immensely grateful.
I just love that you're a ball of joy. Like
Yeah.
you are. I love that.
It's hard not to be, man.
I know.
And look, ultimately, sometimes I'm like, we do so much in wrestling, and I'm like, bro, this is pro wrestling. It is supposed to be fun. We are talking about men and women in tights going out there to perform. It is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be joyful. And that's what I always try to bring to just life in general is joy, because I feel joy. It's hard for me to keep all wrapped up inside of myself. And I experience so much joy doing what I do. I'm so grateful for it. Wrestling is a ton of fun. I love the art form. I love when we get to tell great stories. Sometimes we make people sit through a lot of bad too. Look, there's a lot of things that aren't very good. But when we can give you a KofiMania story, when we can give you that original Bloodline Sammy stuff, when we can tell amazing stories, even like the Cody final boss Rock stuff, I love, and I will fight tooth and nail for this. I think, look, our art form is not always perfect, but when we deliver stories told well, told with commitment, when you can have everyone in the palm of your hands, there, as far as live entertainment is concerned, there's nothing like it.
I can't say enough good things about your book, How I Got Over. Available for pre-order now. You're going to touch a lot of people's lives with this, and you're going to change a lot of people's perspective of the stuff that they're going through. So on behalf of everyone, I want to say thank you for that.
No, thank you so much, man. That's my hope too, is I know, look, it's life's not easy. There's a lot of us who are dealing with difficulties, who are dealing with our own minds, a lot of people who struggle. And I find too, I think wrestling, whether you're a performer or a fan, I think wrestling seems to bring in a lot of people who are looking for something. A lot of people who are looking for community, who are looking to connect to something, who feel lost. And I meet a lot of people who struggle with their mental health. And I carried so much shame for so long, and I was afraid to tell my story. I was afraid that if people learned that I was in a psych ward, that I went through electroconvulsive therapy, that if I went through these things, that I would be seen as someone who was unreliable and broken, and someone who would be dismissed. But I find so much power in telling my story, in connecting with other people, and offering a story of hope, because I thought for so long, best case scenario was learning to be okay. And I'm so much more than okay. Just learning to tread water. And I'm not saying like that's, sometimes you're drowning and you just need to find a way to be okay. And that was it for the longest time. But I think there's so much light at the end of this tunnel. And I never foresaw it. 20 years ago, I never could have foreseen getting here. So that for me is it, man. I'm ready to beat this drum for going to therapy, for being introspective, for taking some time to address your childhood wounds. Meditation changed me. Going to therapy changed me. And I will meditate every single day for the rest of my life. That's something I'm committed to. And also just community. I think that's also something that we need so much more of. I think us coming together to be able to have earnest conversations. Man, I had someone detail my car who came over and we just had a conversation about mental health. And for me, my soul feels so full when I get to have earnest, open, honest, vulnerable conversations with people about what they're going through, about what I went through, with how I got through it. And that's the purpose of this book. So, man, thank you so much for letting me sit down and talk to you. Yes, pre-sales are out now. And pre-sales are so big because like if we can get some buzz now, that'll get the book on shelves throughout the country. So, man, I'm hoping that people really love it. I think I'd like to say it's a great read. I talk about some heavy things.
It's a great read, I'll say it.
Thank you. I talk about so many aspects of my life, from childhood, from football at Iowa, to wrestling, to finding love. There's a lot in there. But ultimately, man, I just really wanted to tell a story about my mental struggles, but more than anything, about hope. And that's what my life is. It's a story of hope.
The thing that you and I share in common here, you've said the word gratitude so many times throughout this conversation. I love that because we both live our lives in gratitude. I wake up every day and just to like start the day, to center myself, I say out loud 3 things I'm grateful for. We do it before we go to bed as well. And that's how I end every interview. So Biggie, what are 3 things right now that you're grateful for?
Ooh, I am grateful for my beautiful best friend, Kristen, my fiance, who brought me out to the Bay. So grateful for her and just so much she's added to my life. Cannot wait to marry her in front of our friends and family. She has been life's greatest blessing. I am also grateful I'm grateful for wrestling. I'm grateful for this community. I am grateful for the way you all have opened your arms up to me and have continued to support me and love on me and to just follow me on all my ventures and excursions. And I'm grateful for healing. I'm grateful that I don't have to be that person that I thought I always was going to be. I'm grateful that change is possible. I'm grateful that there are tools out there for us to grab, to become better, to learn to be softer with ourselves. I'm grateful for life, man. I'm grateful to still be here. I feel like there's so many ways, whether it was the neck, whether it was depression that I succumbed to, there's so many reasons for me to not still be here. And I'm here. Life is beautiful. I'm grateful for all of it.
We're grateful for you.
Thank you.
Thanks again, my friend.
Thanks, Chris.